of your head anyway. Do you know if this is for this one?
That's for the interview. Yeah.
Okay. So do you know how to adjust it to change?
That's Diana.
Hi everyone, can you hear me? If you are getting snacks, please make your way over to the seats. We're gonna get started. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Can you all hear me? I think it's better if I just hold the mic. Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Diana. I'm the Managing Director of the Asian American Women Artists Association. We call ourselves AAWAA for short, AAWAA. And I'm here to welcome you to our annual Women's History Month Slide Slam. So thank you so much for coming. Woo! Just a heads up that we are live streaming this event to AAWA's YouTube channel, and we're also joined by our wonderful ASL interpreters, Nicole and Debbie, who will be interpreting for us today. For anyone who needs it, there are also reserved ASL seating if you need it here at the front and in the second row as well. For anyone joining online, automatic captions are available. I'm sorry we could not get like an actual captioner, but YouTube should be able to do the automatic captions, and our ASL interpreter should be visible to you too. In addition to that, please let us know if you need any additional access needs. I'm here, the folks you met at the front desk, Melanie, are here, as well as some AWA volunteers, and Peggy, who will bring up in a moment to talk about the movie, is also here if you have any questions. For everyone here in person, thank you so much for coming. If you need to use the restroom, it's just through this hallway, or you could also go that way and to the left. It's right, the first door to your left, and it's an ADA accessible. Let's see. Okay, so I also want to make sure that we take a moment to honor the fact that we are currently standing on Ramaytush Ohlone land in Yelamu, otherwise known as San Francisco. And we want to name and honor the stolen indigenous lands that we reside on and work on and create art on, and recognize the agency of Native peoples who still steward the future and histories of these lands. So if you'd like to do more and than just listen to this land acknowledgement, you can also make a contribution to the Shuni land tax. And there's also the Unikin land tax if you are located in the San Francisco Peninsula, such as San Francisco, San Mateo, or Santa Clara. And if you are tuning from outside of these areas, also be sure to try and look up the territory that you are located in so that you can find and learn more about how you can contribute to returning land back to Indigenous people as well. I'm also grateful to be joined by some board members of the Asian American Women Artists Association here today. We have Susie Kagami. Susie! So for folks who don't know, this is also a networking opportunity. So if you'd like to connect, I'm going to introduce some of the special guests, but Susie is also the founder and director of Coho, which is the new artist hub in Japantown, San Francisco. And then, believe it or not, AAWAA is run by just 4 part-time staff. We're all very hardworking. Along with all of our amazing volunteers, please raise your hand if you're here. And if you appreciate what you see here today and want to support the work that we do, please consider making a donation. Ivy's going to talk a little bit about the Cheers to Muses anthology that we published in 2007, featuring art and poetry by Asian American women artists. Yeah, all donations are tax deductible as well, in case you're curious. But it's so amazing to see you all be here and be a part of AAWA's growth over the last few years as well. We revamped our website in 2019 when we had just about 60 members sign up, and our membership has tripled since then. Damn. So we're now at 180 members, active members. So, and to say more about membership, we have Ivy, our wonderful membership coordinator, here to talk a little bit about some members that we're spotlighting.
Okay. Amazing. Whoa, okay, I have to get real low. Okay, I guess this is why she was holding it. Happy Saturday. Look at all the amazing faces today. Thank you so much for coming out. I see some folks already got some snacks. Getting cozy, getting warm at the Ruby. So I'm Ivy, the membership coordinator. I started working with AAWAA actually as a volunteer, 2022? 2021. It's almost been a year. 22? Thank you. Wow, time really flies. It's been a wild ride with AAWAA. We've come such a long way, like Diana was talking about. Like, so much growth. Look at this room. Like, this is insane. This is the second slide slam we've done. Can I get a what? Damn. That's a third slide slam. Third slide slam. Okay. So, yeah. So Diana was talking about the different memberships that we have. We have a lot of great artists that are presenting today. So we have artist memberships. We also have affiliates. If you don't do art, but you're like a professional or a museum curator or want to support artists, there's those memberships too. Or if you just love AAWAA like we do, like you can also be a supporter. Or you can donate or do other things, you know? Yeah, so if you want to know more about those things, please come talk to me at the end of the show. And then AAWAA has come a long way. And this month we wanted to highlight a lot of members that have been with us for a very long time. And we have a really special gift, Cheers to Muses, for folks that have been with AAWAA for 3 plus years. That is a very long time to support AAWAA and all the things that we do. And AAWAA is open to so many folks. AAPI, women identified, trans, non-binary, and femme. Just so much love in the room, right? So much room for more love. And the Ruby, another great update is that we started working out of the Ruby, which is another great space that supports women identified, non-binary folks, right? And this collaboration, AAWAA and the Ruby, look at this, the connections you're gonna make. It's gonna be legendary, right? And then I'm gonna pass it to Peggy to talk more about the Ruby. I already know how amazing it is, but she's gonna talk more about how amazing it is. And here it is, Maggie, woo! Okay, right. Yeah.
Okay, it's going to be really hard to follow that. But welcome, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Peggy, and I proudly lead the Ruby. I'm always so grateful to be able to get to work with AAWAA, Diana, Melanie, and Ivy. You all are dream collaborators, and we're also so proud to have you as part of our community here at the Ruby. And I'm proud to be a member of AAWAA as well. I think that it's something that I joined just recently, and I've really been excited to be a part of that. We're also new fans and friends of BADA. I'm so happy to get to work with you all and to learn and grow alongside you. And in addition, so grateful to get to work with Nicole and Debbie, our interpreters today. Very honored. So I wanted to super briefly introduce the Ruby and who we are. So the Ruby is a collective, and it's a safe gathering space for women and non-binary creatives. We're dedicated to learning and growing and creating together in a community of support. So this space that we're in right now, the one that we're in here together, this is our safe space where we work together, we gather together, we have cultural events together, and I hope that as guests, people who are new to this space can feel the love and support that we do when we're here together. Members of the Rubies are artists and writers, poets and photographers, but also teachers, policymakers, community organizers, doctors, makers, all who are creative at heart and come to the Ruby with curiosity, openness, and a sense of collective purpose. Two of our beloved members, Reina Takahashi and Helen Shiwok-sang, are going to be presenting today amongst you all. And just to talk a little bit more about what we do here, we have several arts and cultural events every week, including book launches, craft nights, community lunches, wine tastings, educational workshops, and other opportunities for our very kind and diverse community to come together. We're so excited to be here with you all. We are also open for membership. There are 2 tiers. There's a community membership where you can come to all of our events. And then there's more of a full membership to come here and work during the day as well. If you're interested in learning more, you're so welcome to come and talk to me about it. And just as a bit of housekeeping, as Diana was sharing, the restroom is right around the corner. Also, there's so much food, so please help yourself. You know, AAWAA knows how to party, and food is a big part of our collective community building. So with that, I'd love to pass back to Diana, and excited to see all the art.
Woo!
All right, thank you, Peggy, and thank you, Ivy. Okay, so before we get started, I also want to say thank you to the Bay Area Asian Deaf Association. We actually have an artist here representing BADA who will present as well. And for folks who don't know, BADA is a program that reaches out to deaf and hard of hearing children, adults, and their families from the entire San Francisco Bay Area. And they host social and recreational activities and workshops on Asian deaf cultures. I pulled that from your website. I hope that's okay, Michelle. And then we wouldn't have been able to put on this event without our funders, the San Francisco Grants for the Arts, California Arts Council, and Zellerbach Foundation. Okay, without further ado. This slideshow, again, is a networking opportunity for artists, so we're really grateful to have some special guests here in attendance today as well. And we have a couple viewing the presentation online too on YouTube. So if you're here in person, please raise your hand. We have Christina Hibromi Hobbs. Hello, Christina. And then Stephen Seymour. And Allison Wicca. Then you can go to the next slide so you can see who they are. So Christina is an art historian and curator and studying at Stanford. Right now, Stephen is San Mateo County Arts Commissioner and also director of AZ Gallery at Tanforan. And then Allison also works at the Asian Art Museum in the Community Programs Department. So, and then online, next slide, Jenny. We also have Jane Chin Davidson, who is an art historian and professor of art history and global cultures at CSU San Bernardino. So something Ivy didn't mention is we have members all across the United States, including SoCal, San Bernardino now, and then and Pacific Northwest, and also the East Coast. And then we also have YY from the Chinese Cultural Center. Okay, so I shared who our special guests are. Please meet them after you're done with your presentation. And without further ado, we're gonna get started with the slide slam. So just a few reminders before artists come up to speak. Each artist has up to 4 minutes to present 4 sides of their work, and a reminder to artists to speak as clearly and moderately as possible so that the ASL interpreters can catch everything that you're saying. If you feel every slide, unless we otherwise discussed it, will last 60 seconds. But if you finish talking about that slide before the 60 seconds are over, just say next slide so that Jenny here can press next slide. If you go over time, I also have this wonderful sign, so please make sure to look out for that. So this is a warning that you are in your last minute of speaking. And then, okay, I think that's everything to prepare you all. So our first artist to present will be Catherine Gutierrez.
Hello, can everyone hear me? All right, so who I am, my name is Catherine Gutierrez, and I was born and raised in San Jose, California, and currently reside in San Francisco. My medium of choice for over 20 years has been oil. And this body of work that I'm going to show is about trusting your intuition. Brink is what you currently see right now on the screen. Brink means something about to happen. Something's about to happen. The negative side of that could be the brink of ruin, but I like to look at it as a moment of opportunity to either choose something that is known and safe, or something that is unknown. And that point in which you could choose something unknown and then trust your intuition to move forward. That part I feel is the most exciting part about doing abstract art. And Brink, for me, shares that excitement. Next. Which leads me to my next series, which I used oracle cards to tap into my intuition. The following 3 paintings are named after themes for each season of the year. Whole Winter is about self-rejuvenation. As I was painting this painting, what I kept on thinking about was a cocoon, pulling your energy from wherever you have left it throughout the year and pulling it back into yourself to rejuvenate. The 3 oracle cards that I used to pull for this was the Creator Destroyer, Expand, and Connect. The Creator Destroyer is about change, being a catalyst, ending things that need to end so that you can start something better. Expand, feeling, presence, being open, and to connect to being grounded and a vision. Kindred Spirit is about family. And for me, this painting feels like walking through a forest and looking up. But when you're looking up, you really don't see where you're walking. So a lot of surprises can happen. This month was driven by the muse, passion, and spontaneity. Play, inspire, vulnerability, being powerful, wild, untamed. I think all these are needed for having a nice, well-rounded family experience in life. I get a sense of wonder every time I look at this painting and the surprises that you could find in each part of it. Creative Summer is about the creative process that's in my mind. Sometimes it's an explosion that happens. Sometimes it's a glimmer, a spark. And these were also driven by 3 oracle cards of the Wise Woman, Embrace, and Harmonize, which leads you to a crossroads with the Wise Woman, being able to simplify, listening to yourself. Embrace, which is abundance and creative, with self-expression and freedom. And last, Harmonize, which I felt is bringing a balance to your own life altogether. So these are only 3, but there will be a 4th for Purposeful Autumn. And then there's 1 card that represents the entire year, which is a line. So this has been my slide sim. Thank you.
I thought that it'd be fun to talk about pivoting and repurposing. I've been a long time filmmaker doing long form, and so I've pivoted to shorter pieces now. And recently I was asked, well, before COVID, to lead a team of creatives to do some 2-minute videos for an exhibit called Gold Mountain, Chinese Californians from the Gold Rush to present day. So I'm going to show a 2-minute video that we did for the museum exhibit.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Nei ho. Hello, how are you? You're good? I learned to speak Ohlone from the children I grew up with. At school, I picked up Spanish, Portuguese, and English, of course. At home, we spoke Cantonese. Home is Point Lobos in the Monterey Coast. I'm Kwok Moi. I'm told I'm the first girl of Chinese descent born in California in 1859. People called me Spanish Mary because I speak Spanish so well. My parents landed in Monterey by accident. They were on their way to San Francisco in the gold mines when their ship crashed. They told me the Indians saved them, took them in, so they decided to settle in the area and become fishermen. My parents learned from the locals and shared their own knowledge about fish drying and preservation. The Chinese established the commercial fishing industry in the Monterey Bay region. My folks depended on me to help translate business deals.
I married a fisherman. We moved a few miles south to Pescadero and raised 6 children. Our days were filled with gathering seaweed, abalone, and fish. We dried everything. In the 1880s, competition to fish the waters during the day increased. So did the anger toward the Chinese from white fishermen. Our community came up with a new idea. We went out at night, not for fish, but squid. We hung pitch torches over the back of our boats, which attracted the squid to the surface of the water. Then we scooped them up. The Chinese were responsible for over 90% of the dried squid production and still fish in Monterey today. Ciao, hasta luego, joy again, goodbye.
one challenge was to create an animated video for kids about Angel Island Immigration Station. And in this case, I repurposed drawings from a comic book to make a journey to Angel Island. So you should see a series of, you should have continued just in one piece. If you continue the video, it'll have it all in one. Don't take that from me.
I want to.
I just continue after this. No, no. No, no. Go back. Go back. There we go. Okay. So that was a comic book cover. This is a page from the comic book. Then I created a script, collecting photos from the comic book. And then we created this animation, which I don't have time to show you today, but we can send you a link for a piece. That's a 4-minute piece. Then the next thing I tried was large-scale projection. So you'll see that I repurposed some footage we did of the dancer Mish Wong, and it was projected in an alley, Joyce Alley in Chinatown. And it's another way of exposing people to new information. This is the guardhouse at Fort Mason, and this was a large screen projection on a building there, Building B. And there was a space below the building, and that you could actually see Angel Island through there. So it was exciting to kind of have the double image when you could see both. But anyway, so it's been a good, it was to acknowledge the 140th anniversary of the passage of the Chinese Exclusion Act. And so it gave an opportunity to expose a whole new group of people who probably didn't know too much about it, to say this happened at Angel Island. And then that we could do the rare screen projections in the guardhouse was another way of showing what that experience would have been like. So thank you.
Let's skip this. Can you? Okay. Ellen! Yay! Hello. Hi. I'm Helen Shuwop-Singh. I'm a Ruby. I'm an artist, designer, and writer. I also am the resident tarot reader here. I'll be showing some of my recent and ongoing work, all of which involve ritual repetition and ancestral motifs. Next slide. These are growth spells. These are an ongoing series of drawings based in experimental rituals, combining repetitive movements with responsiveness and curiosity to what emerges. Each growth spell holds a time-based memory and acts as a portal to a state of flow and enchantment. And on the right, there's a set that I created for Living Roulette Exchange, which is a new media art salon that happens usually here in the Bay Area, but over the pandemic it happened over Zoom, so these are residues from this season's conversations. Next slide. Can you speak a little closer? Oh yeah. This is another set of drawings made in series, or these are two drawings from a series that I've been making called Coyote Portals. I have an ongoing interest and obsession with coyotes, in particular the population here in San Francisco. Over the past few years, I've spent a lot of time observing and studying them under the wing of a local naturalist. And coyote motifs have found their way into my work as a proxy for exploring migration, adaptation, trickster archetypes, ecological peril, and some other topics of my interest and anxiety. And like the growth spells, these also act as a balm and a portal for me. Next slide.
These are talisman prints, and they're inspired by paper food talismans that I've received from people in my family as protective charms. They're also used by some of the spiritual practitioners in my family. You can see some of those on the top left, the sort of small folded hexagons. In the middle, this is a risograph print I created in 2019 for the protection of immigrants. In the top left, you can see how it looks folded into a hexagon, kind of mirroring the shape of the charms that I received. And on the right are 2 out of 3 of the prints I created for Sash Art Gallery's spring publication in 2021, which consisted of 3 prints embedded with symbols from my name, family, and ancestry, and they're overlaid with ink gestures. And I also included a ritual for folding and burning the prints and returning them to the earth. This is a piece I created in early 2022 called Axis Mundi. It was a new media installation which involved a responsive altar that was activated by sitting on a bench in front of the piece. I used computational tools to create a soothing sensory space for embodiment, and it was designed in response to the kind of overwhelming, dissociative pace of our current technological lives. So this nine-tailed fox spirit guides and grounds viewers through a calming audio-visual loop, which brought awareness to the ebb and flow of breath and invited presence and pause. And the installation also included gentle lavender mist, plants, and fresh fruit. That is all for me. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jasmine Young. I am an artist, student organizer, and also lifelong resident of Visitation Valley here in San Francisco. Today I'll be going over a few works that I've done in the past 2 years. Yeah, so next slide please. This is Portrait of Bernice Bing. This is a work that I created with Queer Ancestors Project. It is a program that has been in the city for over a decade now, and we print, we do lino cut printmaking, and we also, the program is for queer and trans emerging artists, and we reflect on our ancestors, either real or imagined. Bernice Bing is someone that I consider my ancestor. She was a Chinese-American lesbian painter. She was painting an abstract expressionism in 1950s North Beach, and she currently has a solo show, posthumous solo show in the Asian Art Museum currently. And when I saw photos of her, I immediately connected with her butchness, with her queerness, and that was something that I wanted to create. I know that I need to create an image of her in the way that I see her. And this was something that really captured what I related with her and also what I got from just learning about her. She loved drinking, smoking, and partying. And when she moved to Philo, which is a remote town in California, she started painting until her art melded with the environment around her. So in this print, I have her smoking and her back turned from the audience, and the smoke from her cigarette is blending into the nature behind her. Next slide, please. This print, this is a cyanotype map piece. I created this during the pandemic. It was during lockdown when I had a lot of time to walk around the city, and I was thinking about my neighborhood of Visitation Valley. I live in Southeast San Francisco. Most of my neighbors are people of color, and we're really like erased from most maps in San Francisco. So I wanted to create a map that centered my city, but also erased the parts of the city that I feel alienated from. So here in this map, I have streets that I walk on, streets that I take the bus on, places that my friends live, places that I've been to and really liked. I wanted to create a map that centered my city, centered my communities, and was something that I could look to and reference to. And with the cyanotype, I was using this alternative photography process that is commonly used for blueprint. So I think of this as like the blueprint of my understanding of San Francisco. Okay, last minute. All right, this summer I was thinking about what is Asian American futurism. And I'm a fan of Afrofuturism, Indigenous futurism, and I wanted to imagine what it was like to time travel to the International Hotel protests back in the late 70s and early 80s. And yeah, this was at Southern Exposure. Next slide, please. And for the next one, for the photographers here, please do not take photos of this, but Midori is okay because she's documenting for me. Next slide, please. This is tribute to Kitty Sway. Kitty Sway is a Leatherdyke community organizer, lesbian, poet. She's someone who I consider an elder because she lived through those identities before me. Her 1989 cover of On Our Backs, which is a lesbian erotica magazine, one of the first made for lesbians by lesbians, it was something that was innate for me to recreate. So this is my recreation of that. It portrays like but that's it. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jongin Weber, and I'm part of the Bay Area Asian Deaf Association. I'm a board member there. I also am an artist. I was born and grew up in South Korea, and I moved here when I was 15, and life is really different here in America compared with Korea. I've been learning a lot so much, because I've learned a lot. Next slide. So I learned art from a deaf teacher in Fremont, and at the California School for the Deaf. David Call was his name, and I met him, and he exposed me to a lot. And we talked about our deaf identity and how we can have exposure to deaf culture. The topic that I'm addressing here is anger, and how I can use my hands to maybe, hearing folks can express their rage maybe in writing or other ways, but I want it particularly because I find I wanted to use my hands. So I put paint on my hands and threw it onto the page. So I learned a lot through the process of making this. I really love this all of the different feelings and then the next, we can go to the next slide. So this is a video during the time that I studied at Ohlone College. I was going to class, a live drawing class, and they were talking about, we had live models, nude models, and so I was, learning about that. And of course, we weren't allowed to take photographs, but it was an art class, so it was a little bit rushed. We only had a limited number of time to do the drawing. After 4 weeks, I came out with this series of, this drawing. and I took photographs to show the process. And I call it them in the middle of the warm-up. So there are different shapes of the body that you notice. Some things become more clear as you sort of warm up. Next slide. So I use the Procreate app because I used to do everything by hand, but I decided that I was going to try to use Procreate and import some ideas into the application. So I did a lot of revisions, redid things, and finally came out with this piece because deaf people use their eyes to communicate. So we really depend on our eyes. Hearing people may not depend as much on their eyes, but we use our eyes for everything. We open our eyes, we have open eyes, open mind, and be able to express ourselves. This is about the Deaf Plus world. So what does the Deaf Plus world mean? It's about folks who may have cerebral palsy or be on the autism spectrum, have a developmental disability, have emotional conditions that, as well as being deaf. So this person may be deaf-blind. So you can see the images of what they might be seeing. If you can't see color or see anything in your environment, how would a deaf-blind person communicate? They can smell things, they can feel things, they can have tactile interpreters. But so I wanted to have sort of that vision of what deaf-blind folks might experience. And then we play that. If you could stop there. You can see the hands here. So a deaf person and a deaf-blind person may sit down, and how will you communicate with each other? Maybe tactily, so you would sign underneath their hand and communicate in that way to be able to make a connection. So the deaf-blind person sits on one side, and there's a deaf interpreter maybe in the middle, and a hearing person on the other side, and the interpreter is facilitating the communication. So the deaf person would help the deaf-blind person to understand what the hearing person is speaking by using tactile interpreting. So it's sort of this chain of communication, chain of interpretation that happens. There's an old man here who has cerebral palsy. He can't sign because his hands don't move very well. And so, but he comes up with this I love you sign in green. So Deaf Plus folks sometimes may have a difficult time signing, but we try our best. With a hearing interpreter sometimes may have a hard time understanding what they are signing and have to sort of ask them to repeat or draw it out. But we all have to keep an open mind. This sign up here is about connection and collaboration between deaf folks, deaf-blind folks, deaf plus folks, and hearing folks. We all are in community together, and we're all equal. And if we could go ahead and play a little bit more. So why do I include this sign? Because of the deaf plus folks who may be frustrated, may have some emotional feelings and anger that they are holding back. So I really love to communicate with them, develop a relationship so that we can share our vulnerabilities and share love also. Sometimes deaf plus and deaf blind folks can't love each other. You know, I think sometimes that's a challenge for all of us, and they are lovable too. This sign, when a person is perceiving things and working really hard, and maybe you have to repeat things because they don't quite understand, but their eyes are open. And there are some lines where it sort of represents like we're trying to make this connection, trying to have this communication happen, and then finally it happens, and that's such a great feeling. This is sort of someone's identity or pride. Maybe there's something that they're holding, something vulnerable that they're holding inside, but then they finally are able to openly communicate and share that. And then growth and experiences and learning about these different communities is also pictured in this. So the BADA's president encouraged me to add this and meet a lot of Deaf Plus folks, so I really want to thank him. And hearing people who depend on hearing every day have a lot of privilege. Deaf folks depend on interpreters, perhaps, to communicate with them. And then, who's last in line? Deaf Plus folks, or deaf blind folks, who may even have less access to certified deaf interpreters. And so we have to open up those channels so that everyone is equal. And work in solidarity, work in cooperation with each other. That's it.
And then you're up here.
Hi everyone, my name is Joyce. I'm a photographer. I guess I do all kinds of photography, but I'm going to show some of my community photography work. So here are some portraits from a recent project based in Oakland, Chinatown. I oftentimes work in relationship with community-based organizations or just documenting things that are going on in the community. I used to do advocacy work as well, so a lot of these relationships were formed through my past work. But this is with Asian Health Services in Oakland, and we wanted to show some of the folks in Chinatown and just show their humanity, and it was also done with some interviews, so this is kind of an ongoing project that's not done yet, but this is just some of the work that I do. Yeah, showing like just intergenerational, everyday people living their life, showing complexity, reality. You know, I think a lot of times photography is used as kind of a luxury thing or for fashion, advertise, you know, or from a journalistic standpoint where community does not have control over their own narrative. Somebody else is telling the story of the community in their own lens. So for me, it's important to do that work in relationship and kind of, you know, with integrity as in respect to the people that I'm working with. So, next slide. This is just another example of some of the work that I do, which is just documenting like activism, communities trying to change their conditions for the better, fighting for freedom. And in this particular instance, this is a recent event on the anniversary of Executive Order 9066, which is, you know, the executive order that incarcerated 100,000, more than that, Japanese Americans in the U.S. during World War II. And this is translating that to the present day, so a lot of folks coming out protesting immigration detention centers and imprisonment that's happening in this country every day with people who are impacted by incarceration back in the day, as well as people who are who have been impacted by incarceration today. So those are just some of the images. Next slide. So along those lines, this is a campaign that I was involved in doing the advocacy on, as well as working with some of the organizations involved. So this individual, his name is Pun. He is a Cambodian genocide survivor and a refugee to the U.S. He's one of many people who, were locked up at a young age because they got involved in, the wrong crowds or whatever you want to say, and then matured, grew up, but because they did not have full citizenship, were sent straight to deportation to be deported to a country that they have never been in. So that's what Pun went through, as well as many others. So this is, on that side, are photos from just the community efforts to try to keep Pun in the U.S. and prevent his deportation. And then he ultimately was deported and separated from his family. So we're still trying to bring him back, but I was actually able to visit him in Cambodia, so took some photos of him there as well. Next slide. And then this is just documenting different events, mostly in Oakland and San Francisco. Just community celebration, culture. These are multiple different events, but this is just some of the stuff that I do, both personally, but also, like I said, kind of in collaboration with community organizations. This is like, I like for my art to kind of be part of the movement, if that makes sense, part of the efforts to document as well as to change our society. So yeah, I work, I do personal projects, and I also work with organizations and individuals to do photography. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you ever want to work together. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Kisukli. I came from United States 1964, from Korea. My work draws inspiration from having roots in both countries while practicing as professional artist and releasing the role of mother, wife, grandmother, and homemaker. I use thread to make embroidery drawings on vintage handkerchiefs that I found in American antique store that already had embroidered on it, and it has history of touching their tears and sweats and nose and mouth. I hung hundreds of them on gallery clothesline, reminisce Laundry Day, holding inheritance from older generation of women. My work responded contemporary women's domestic issues. Sipan is my personal symbol of woman's potential. I have known many women who struggled and juggled to meet family needs and sacrifice their individual needs, their dreams. I use thread to make embroidery of a woman that came out with spontaneity, having multiple arms and legs, and some look like a flower bud with many petals folded in, and some look like seeds with many dots. I washed in the clay from the garden and hang dries, preserving all the wrinkles and threads. Sewn together make a big seed pod, as if they are pregnant with big dreams. Some in our time, in my time, some women grew out of seed pods and succeed to bloom. Some women failed. The work expanded to the woman who even has not had a chance to cultivate their dreams. Otis Sprout was born when I moved to Berkeley, California, inspired by the bright lights and vibrant color of the plants all year round. I abandoned commercially dyed thread and making pigments in my studio to base white thread. White thread pools are based in many shades of blue, sometimes yellow, sometimes green. They're laid down on the floor in the manner of painting, and threads sprouted out from the thread spool nested on the floor, upward to the ceiling, evoking the emotional sensation of seeing and maybe even hearing when thread moves around or dancing by the room air circulation. Here thread is freed from the traditional media for embroidery drawing, but became an independent thread drawing itself. The work here exploring the possibility of developing thread as a language to express feminine experience and aesthetics. Next one. This hammock, green hammock, was influenced by my experience of Korean War when I was 9 years old. After the September 9/11, I went to the army store, army supply store, and found lots of items from the war, used items from the war, such as canteen, helmet, folding bed, and blanket that immediately reminded me of the Korean War that I experienced. And I brought armful of U.S. Army women's nurse uniforms to my studio and cut it off all the parts and reassembled as a hammock, incorporating all the marks from the war in nurse uniforms, such as missing button, worn hole, and burnt mark, and dangling threads, and I saved all to have it in green hammock. And hammock, it's like as if only soldiers are lying on there, and the dreams fallen apart from the body and dangling to the thread and coming down to the floor. The green hammock offers the comfort for the wounded victims of the war and recognized women's hard work in the war field and honoring the woman nurses' caring heart. Thank you for your attention. And have a good day.
All right, you got me on the picture. I forget to document my stuff. Before we start the clock, can we get a little? Yeah, okay, yeah. Stand up, stretch, you know, that kind of stuff. And I'm setting a timer because I forget time. Okay. Focusing on people's art is, you know, hard. Okay, here we go. Hi, y'all, I'm Midori. And I am, let's see, I'm Japanese American and Japanese, long story, born and raised in Japan. I came over as a teenager. I'm going to show you 3 pieces that I'm really excited about. I am a multimedia artist, which is to say that I have a restless mind, and whatever catches my fancy, I'll make it. Oh, yeah, this one. Okay, this one's called Placemat. Where is Sam Woe? And if you're local, you know the reference. And this one's showing up in J-Wave Rising, y'all come, okay? It is a 2-scale, hand-drawn and copied 2-scale Chinese restaurant. Oh, I see a last minute. Oh, right. Chinese restaurant placemat. Do you recognize this stuff? Okay. It is hand-drawn and stenciled, etc., gold leaf, whatever. It looks like a regular placemat, but it is not. For the 12 zodiac, yeah, I got the animals, but when you look at it, you see the year. Like there's the 1882 Chinese Exclusionary Act. Those are 12 American laws, discriminatory American laws, and underneath it, I put out a call on social media saying, hey, Asian heritage folks, especially femmes, tell me the dumb shit people have told you. Where are you from? Do you give happy endings? So I collected all those on a spreadsheet and put those there. So in the middle of it is the American government definition of Asian used in the census. Right? I have a bad habit of putting many layers of meaning in my work. Then there's the bullets. The bullets are made of hand-painted acrylic nails by my favorite Vietnamese American nail artist. So I will have those as earrings and necklaces, merch, like that. And the pink gun, all right, the pink gun is a Colt gun. It's called a Peacemaker. It's a replica of it. And it is in Hello Kitty pink. So I appreciate the sentiment of, and it is needed to say, stop Asian hate. But that's passive. It's about time that we step forward with Asian pride. So that weapon, Hello Kitty, say hello to my kitty. Yep, yeah, that's my angry Asian lady art. Next slide. That one is called, ooh, not a minute left. That one is called Dining Room. What looks like a shag carpet, shattered plates. I've had a chance to do this 3 times. I hope I get to do it again. I throw a party called the Shatter Party and get together and line up and one at a time, break dishes. Exhilarating, cathartic. And then I take the shattered plates, make it into a shag carpet. The table, and on top of the table are 4 plates that were broken and then glued together. Then there's a mirror that places the audience in the room as complicit. So yeah, because family trauma. None of us had that. Yeah. Oh, and last one. And you can play this until you play me off. This one's called Interface. Oh, no volume, no volume. Okay. Interface, I collaborated this with 203 people online during the pandemic using a basic tool of Zoom annotation. And how do I collaborate with people as an in-person physical artist during this? I created this method, and I'm very proud of it. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Niba Kiredi. I'm a painter I'm born and raised South Bay, and moved to SF recently and am now painting, working out of San Francisco. Next slide. We'll just go straight into the paintings. I draw a lot from stories like mythology, movies, music, a lot of things that wouldn't be considered like visual art. But this painting is a self-portrait where I kind of flip around a story I grew up with, like a myth from the Ramayana, which is like one of these ancient Sanskrit epics. And in the story, there's like this demoness, and I always really related to the demonesses. I feel like they're always just like these women doing their jobs, doing their thing, like independent, like loud, fierce. And I never felt like they did anything wrong. And she's guarding the ocean, and the hero of the story is just trying to cross the ocean. And essentially how he vanquishes her is like turning really, really small, flying into her mouth and like emerging from her chest, which basically kills her. And I kind of recreated that with me as the demoness. And at the time I was living at home, painting out of my parents' garage. And my enemies were like these little cockroaches that would scutter around and like die around me. And like I was kind of guarding my paintings from them. So the cockroaches were like the hero fighting against me, and that's what this painting is just like kind of capturing that moment in my life. And go to the next slide. This painting was meant to be just like an interim piece, but ended up being one of my favorites, and it's just kind of like a love letter to the women who do eyebrows everywhere. Because just like, I don't know, growing up, like my first time getting my eyebrows threaded was kind of a moment where I like learned to see myself differently, and like take care of myself in a way. And like I started going to the eyebrow lady that my mom had been going to for like 10, 15 years. And she, like my mom and her are super tight. Like our families know each other. They visit each other in India. And moving to the city, I found myself like having a lot of conversations with just like my brown friends who were here too. And we're just like, where do you get your eyebrows done? Like, where do you want to go? And that has kind of felt like once I found my eyebrow lady, I'm home. Yeah, and this is just like, they're always like really sick women, like making money, doing their thing, just kind of like are really caring. And that's just like a very beautiful part of community. Next slide. Okay, yeah, this painting is part of a new series I'm building out. Kind of my first like real series, as just like a young artist, new to being like having the time and space to paint a lot. And I'm trying to make this series just about my relationship to, like I guess I'm Telugu, like that's my language, my culture, and we have like a very specific brand of just like Telugu masculinity. It's very like machismo, like big man, mustache fighting, like, and I was really close to my dad growing up, so I feel like I kind of grew up embodying a lot of that masculinity and kind of like taking it on in what I did and like how I acted, and just like me now making art, I kind of use it as a way to like be more vulnerable, to like deconstruct that and be like, hey, like these are things I should dismantle, like these are things I think or like ways I behave that I like should be a little bit more introspective about. And like in this series, I'm thinking about that specifically through sports and just kind of the sports I've picked up through my life. Like I started weightlifting like maybe 10 years ago, and I've like dabbled in like boxing and like very male-centric forms of dance. And yeah, like in this painting, you can see the boxing gear in the background. And this painting is modeled off of a Telugu movie poster, so I kind of like assumed this really manly pose. But like I've also decorated it with just like these rangolis and these patterns that are very feminine and like really remind me of my mother. And if you go to the next slide, this is kind of continuing that series in this diptych where I've recently gotten really interested in these Indian clubs. They're kind of like these weights that Indian and Persian wrestlers used to use, and then like the British came and started making them into steel clubs versus wooden ones. And there's all these diagrams and books about British people learning how to use them or like learning what they're used for. but I kind of grew up like around a lot of people using these clubs, so I'm just like very interested in them again. And on the right, the other piece in the diptych is an arm holding this sword. Oh, that's my time. But yeah, an arm holding the sword, and yeah, similar vibes, but thank you.
Hello, I'm Reina Takahashi. I'm an artist based in Oakland, and I primarily work in paper sculpture as my main way of making. So day to day, I'm an artist and I'm also an illustrator, and so I kind of combine my love of paper sculpture making with illustration for commercial work. And so usually I am responding to a brief, making stuff out of paper, photographing, lighting it, editing it, and that gets delivered for spaces like magazines or newspapers or book covers. But today I just wanted to walk through one project that I had worked on that is not client work, and it's a personal piece that I collaborated with a friend of mine. She is a photographer. Her name's Andrea Lowe. She's based in East Bay. And for this set of images, we were really interested in just exploring technique a little bit. And so we decided that we wanted to reinterpret Wayne Thiebaud paintings as photographs. And the subject matter would be cakes made out of paper. So here we are in the West Oakland studios shooting for, I think about just a day, coming up with 3 final images. And then the next slide, this is one of the 3 images we finalized. And I just wanted to walk through a few of the techniques we were picking up and just exploring with. And so when we think about Wayne Thiebaud, many of you probably know, but he had a way of including color in the shadows of his paintings. And so the shadows were usually very crisp and then also had some color showing through. And so here you can see that Andrea has lit the set in a way with colored gels on the lighting that starts to bring out a little bit of that color in each shadow of the cake slices. So that was one thing that we pulled out. And then another thing we were thinking about were horizon lines. So, many of his paintings were still lifes. And so they would have these horizon lines cutting across the back of the subject matter. And they're often very vibrant and almost to a point where they start to vibrate when you look at them, where they're a little bit blurry. And so to recreate that in paper, we were sort of just iterating on the fly and came up with some solutions for this bottom foreground line and then also the background horizon line. So this is the second image of 3. We also did the horizon line here. And for me, as someone that was making these cakes, what was really exciting was to experiment with color in the shaded areas of the cakes. So I actually brought them. Just by way of example, so this cake, usually I would make the filling of this pie all in yellow paper, but in this case, planning for the shadow side, I wanted to try using something really vibrant. And so when you photograph it, you do get a little bit more of that richness and saturation from in the shadow part. So same thing actually went for this cake, but you can't see it. And then the really trick of the eye one, last minute, is this one. So this one you can see it's actually yellow, pink, and white on this side. And then the shaded area is actually a more saturated and vibrant version of those colors. And so it's a little bit of playing with those types of papers to use, and this kind of became a seed for more experimentation later. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Sophia Lee. I'm a mixed media artist, and I was born in Taiwan and then I immigrated to the US around 9. And I grew up in Southern California and moved around a lot. And then now I'm in San Francisco. I work with a lot of waste material from our everyday life, like collect coffee lids, yogurt tops, paper from my studio mate. And so the series of work I'm showing you are also paper. I'll cut from her everyday, like she's a paper artist and she creates collages, and I take her trash and I cut them up into leaf shapes because they relate to natural environment around us. The leaf shape is like fish-like leaves. You find it in a lot of patterns around us, and I use them to create my abstract paintings. And then these are dry paint in the studio that I reuse as paint. Next slide. And then this one is for a series for the sky exhibition on Valencia, 780 Valencia, and this is called I Spy a Little Sky Through the Leaves. So when you look up into the trees, you often see little bits of blue. And then this one is called almost mostly sunshine. So, and the gold foil is cut from chocolate wrappers. Gold foils are harder to come by than silver foil. I don't know, maybe it's more expensive, so they're always used to wrap around chocolates, and mostly that. And so they're cut from different brands of chocolate, and then they create this little sunshine glow. And then this is moon rising, full moon rising. And the silver is from packaging that everyone gets for food delivery to keep things warm or to keep things cold. And I tear that up and created this collage with all the paper I cut. And then, so it's, I usually fill the entire space, but this time I decided negative space is just as perfect as filling the space. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so we had a few artists who couldn't make it in person today, so we're gonna show some pre-recorded videos of their presentations. Hopefully you all can see it. So switch screen or windows. Oh, there it is.
Today I'm going to talk about 4 Korean women during Korean Joseon Dynasty. First one is Shin Saimdang. She was born in middle of 16th century. She was most well-known Korean artist in history of Korea. She wasn't allowed to learn how to read or write in Joseon Dynasty, so her father taught her at home, and she was very talented with her painting. And luckily she lived with her family after she married, so she could practice her art. And when she wasn't well-known in her lifetime, her son, Yulgok, who became a Confucian scholar later, he preserved her work. And then, so recently in Korean government recognized her talent, so they decided to publish her art and her image on Korean banknote of 15,000 won with her art and her son's image. That was a big celebration. This is Lady Honan Solhom. She was considered a genius when she was 8 years old, who wrote a poem in Chinese character. So Chinese emperor really liked her work and keep asking for the next poem. And she was not welcomed because she was so talented and she has such an unhappy marriage. and her two little kids died, and she died when she was only 27. So her younger brother took her 200 poem to China and published it. So she was well known in China and Korea, and she was only 27 or 28 years old. So next one is called Yu Guan-sun. Yu Guan-sun was born right after Korean dynasty in 1902 under the Japanese occupation. When she was 17 years old, high school girl, she organized Korean independence movement against Japanese colonization. On March 1st, 1919, she went out, marched with 100,000 people in Seoul City. She was captured and tortured and mutilated, and she finally died in 1919 as 18-year-old girl. She was considered as a Joan of Arc of Korea. So every year, March 1st, we celebrate Independence Day and then celebrate Yu Guan-sun Day. She was the greatest leader of Korean women. And finally, this is Halmoni. Halmoni means grandmother. This is my grandmother, Lady Shin. She was born in noble family in 1894, and she was educated at home, writing and the calligraphy. Later, she taught me calligraphy, so I could do my art just the way I did with black sumi ink. When she was a teen, she was one of the candidates to become a bride of last prince of Korean dynasty. And his father, King Gojong, invited several women from noble family, and my grandmother was one of them. But finally, they chose Lady Min, and he was engaged to Prince, but soon Japan occupied Korea, and he was forced to marry a Japanese woman. So my grandmother was freed to marry my grandfather, who was on.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Tanya Momi. I paint brown women breaking barriers. So this painting is Women Don't Go Back. They're breaking this glass windows. They're walking through that. So we are not going back. We're going to move forward in the society and women's equal rights. This is what this painting about. Women don't go back. This painting is about banning abortion rights. So these are the good men who were, if men were pregnant, if they wanted the right for abortion, they would be not denied about it. So they're saying, if we were pregnant and we want to have abortion rights, this is what we want to support. We want to have equal rights, and we are 50% part of that baby. So these are the men who are protesting for abortion rights. Because when women ask, then women becomes the bad guy, and it's about women's right. There's no such thing as men's right. And these are the good guys. We need more men to support in our women's abortion rights and women's equal rights. This painting is about I am my mother's daughter. This is our Vice President, Kamala Harris, first brown Vice President. In this painting, the bottom where her feet are, that's the two oceans. The mother comes from India, and the Madam Vice President from San Francisco. There's an Indian flag with rising sun. Then they're holding the book, that's Jamaican flag. And the butterfly on her mother's shoulder is saved because she has passed away. She has transformed to every woman transformed into a monarch butterfly. And the two lotus are, Kamala means lotus, and our sister Maya. And then the freedom of dove and the American flag. This is what this painting is about. It's not about I'm taking an oath. It's about I'm my mother's daughter. Being a single woman, raised two daughters. And my own story, being a brown woman coming to the United States and raising two children. And my journey tells it through this painting. This painting is about Independence Day and a vision of the future. In India, women were not allowed to read or write or pay for themselves. This painting is the chakras in the back which is turned upside down. Her crown chakra is in her feet. And she is visioning that one day I provide for myself and others. They say, you see there's a lot of symbols in this painting. The lotus who grows in a murky water. So this is how she's coming out of murky water. The dove is flying out. The check that one day I will provide for myself and provide for others. Like Mark Twain says, I kill my own snake, I light my own cigar. I'll repeat, I kill my own snake, I light my own cigar. She's wearing silver jewelry because she's not wealthy, and there's a lamp on the background. This woman is changing the path for herself and other, and the symbols are there to see the vision of herself and other women. Then right now we are doing that as I provide for myself and others. This is the art I talk about. So thank you so much.
Hello everyone, my name is Yuki Nguyen, and I am a visual artist and cultural producer based in Los Angeles. I am best known for my very colorful, socially engaged, interactive installations. So I'm going to share with you some of my most recent work in this discipline. First is a project that I completed in 2022 called Emotional Dumplings. This is a project that earned me a feature in the LA Times. Over the period of 6 months of exhibition, I held multiple art workshops for community members to come together and process the challenges that we've experienced during the pandemic, and stuffing them into these personalized fabric dumplings. It is a way to teach ourselves how to handle our emotion with care and delicacy and acceptance and patience, just like we do in the making of actual dumplings. The dumplings are actually then displayed in a set of chandeliers made out of actual bamboo steamer baskets. So for me, this is a very personal project about cultural empathy and vulnerability. Next is High Hope. This is a project that also happened during the pandemic and took 2 years to complete in partnership with Santa Monica City. For this project, I wanted to focus on the theme of community resilience and how do we maintain connection to one another after a long period of isolation. So 200 community members came together to make these hope flags filled with what gives us hope, our own personal definition of what hope means to us, and what do we hope for as a collective. What is our vision for a future together? And this project was installed on public land at Tonga Park Overlook structure opposite of Santa Monica Pier. And it's definitely one of my largest scale installations so far. I definitely appreciate the fact that I could utilize my background as a rock climber to devise how to install this work and also how to choose materials that would stand up to marine degradation, abrasion. So this was a huge learning curve. It's also one of my proudest achievements. And now to my most recently completed project. This is Ode to Ova. And for all you big kids out there, this is an interactive ballooned installation. You can make your own ovum by pumping a latex balloon and encode it with your own personal DNA on which you will express your gratitude towards a person or an event that made you the person you are today, warts and all. So for me, this is a project about coming home to our body and our identity with radical gratitude and self-acceptance. It is now on display at the LA LGBTQ centers in Los Angeles until April 16. So 1 month of exhibition, during which period, pun intended, the balloons will deflate and shed from the uterus wall. So this brings me to my current project, which is curating and making a 35-foot empowering wave for Jade Wave Rising Portraits of Power. I am really looking forward to this project, which I think is really an amazing opportunities, for us Asian American women identifying artists to come together and share with the world how we embody, express, and redefine power in our own way. So I am looking forward to seeing everybody at the show, if you can make it. And once again, thank you so much for listening to me and allowing me to share with you my works. Thank you. Once again, I'm Yu Kyu Win. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. So that's it for our presentations today, but before I leave you all to start talking to each other, next slide. So Q was just speaking about our exhibition that we will have up at the Some Arts Cultural Center, opening this April 27th at 6 p.m. at Some Arts Cultural Center. And it's also the opening for that exhibition is also the kickoff for the United States of Asian America Festival presented by the AAPI Cultural Center. So please come out and join us for that as well. And thank you again to the ASL interpreters, to BADA, to the Ruby, all the AAWAA staff and volunteers. Thank you all for helping out. Give them a round of applause as well. I know you all took in a lot of information, but now's your chance to meet the artists and meet each other. So please talk to each other. Thank you.
Oh, there was a request to get the last.